Good morning or good evening, wherever you are. Hi, my name's Sandy Levesque. Hi, Glenn.
Hi
Just
there.
coming into the hangout.
Good morning.
This is the Think and Grow Rich Daily Hangout. So we're reading from the book and then just sharing any inspiration or insights afterwards. So welcome to this episode. And the aim is to really help everyone sort of unplug from the matrix, the matrix of very sort of limited thinking that a lot of people live with, that keeps most people never really
Hey,
having any
Tracy.
riches or prosperity. So, hi Tracy with the pink umbrella.
Good morning.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't have any sound. Oh, hang on, sorry guys, I'll just stop my iTunes.
Oh,
Oh, oh yeah, now I can hear you. I'm so sorry if I just talked over you. I had mute
no,
on.
no, no.
Okay, cool. How are you both doing?
Doing fine
Good. Very good. Productive morning.
today.
Oh, oh, we have a new person coming in. Oh, it's no, it's Jackie. I was
Who's
like, I
Mike?
recognize that
Yeah,
surname.
what? That's
Yeah.
weird.
Hi, Mike. Good morning. Oh, did everyone have a good weekend?
Yeah, good, nice weekend.
It was pretty
Cool.
What
good.
about you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did too, thank you. Went swimming for the first time in a swimming pool this summer. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. Right out
Yeah,
back?
it was good. Yeah, yeah, in the garden. Yeah, it's so nice.
The piece and East got there and fixed it all up.
The what?
The piece and East.
You're
Sorry, I'm
breaking
speaking
up,
French.
Tracy.
Yeah, I think my friend Shirley stole my headphones, so I can't. You can't hear me?
Oh,
It's
Yeah, but it was
intermittent.
now I can, but it was breaking up.
Oh, I said, did the piece and East come?
I have no idea what that is.
Cool guy in French.
Oh, what?
pool
Oh,
guy. Pool guy.
cool guy. Who's
Oh,
the
pool
niece?
guy.
Swimming.
Well, okay, I don't know what that word means, but well, it was already fixed up, so it's
The
fine.
French word.
I don't know what it is. Anyway, hi Geraldine.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Good.
Cool. Would anybody like to read this morning?
I'll read.
Okay. So basically, we're on page 207, and it's the bottom of the page. It's symptoms of the fear of poverty at the bottom of the page. And it's indifference is the first one.
Did it go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you, Jackie.
Symptoms of the fear of poverty. Indifference. Commonly expressed through lack of ambition, willingness to tolerate poverty, acceptance of whatever compensation life might offer without protest, mental and physical laziness, lack of initiative, imagination, enthusiasm, and self-control. Indecision. The habit of permitting others to do one's thinking, staying on the fence. Doubt, generally expressed through alibis and excuses designed to cover up, explain away, or apologize for one's failures, sometimes expressed in the form of envy of those who are successful or by criticizing them. Worry, usually expressed by finding fault with others, a tendency to spend beyond one's income, neglect of personal appearance, scowling and frowning, intemperance in the use of alcoholic drinks, sometimes through the use of narcotics, nervousness, lack of poise, self-consciousness, and lack of self-reliance. Overcaution, the habit of looking for the negative side of every circumstance, thinking and talking of possible failure instead of concentrating upon the means of succeeding, knowing all the roads to disaster but never searching for the plans to avoid failure, waiting for the right time to begin putting ideas and plans into action until the waiting becomes a permanent habit. Remembering those who have failed and forgetting those who have succeeded. Seeing the hole in the donut but overlooking the donut. pessimism, leading to indigestion, poor elimination, auto-intoxication, bad breath, and bad disposition. Procrastination. The habit of putting off until tomorrow that which should have been done last year, spending enough time in creating alibis and excuses to have done the job. This symptom is closely related to overcaution, doubt, and worry. Refusal to accept responsibility when it can be avoided. Willingness to compromise rather than put up a stiff fight. Compromising with difficulties instead of harnessing and using them as stepping stones to advancement. Bargaining with life for a penny instead of demanding prosperity, opulence, riches, contentment, and happiness. Planning what to do if and when overtaken by failure instead of burning all bridges and making retreat impossible. Weakness of and often total lack of self-confidence, definiteness of purpose, self-control, initiative, enthusiasm, ambition, thrift, and sound reasoning ability. Expecting poverty instead of demanding riches. Association with those who accept poverty instead of seeking the company of those who demand and receive riches. Money talks. Someone will ask, why did you write a book about money? Why measure riches in dollars alone? Someone will believe, and rightly so, that there are other forms of riches more desirable than money. Yes, there are riches which cannot be measured in terms of dollars, but there are millions of people who will say, give me all the money I need and I will find everything else I want. The major reason I wrote this book on how to get money is the fact that the world has but lately passed through an experience that left millions of men and women paralyzed with the fear of poverty. What this sort of fear does to one was well described by Westbrook Pegler in the New York World Telegram, viz. Money is only clamshells or metal discs or scraps of paper, and there are treasures of the heart and soul which money cannot buy, but most people, being broke, are unable to keep this in mind and sustain their spirits. When a man is down and out and on the street, unable to get any job at all, something happens to his spirit which can be observed in the droop of his shoulders, the set of his hat, his walk, and their gaze. They cannot escape a feeling of inferiority among people with regular employment, even though they know they are definitely not their equals in character, intelligence, or ability. These people, even their friends, feel, on the other hand, a sense of superiority and regard them, perhaps unconsciously, as a casualty. They may borrow for a time, but not enough to carry on in their accustomed way, and they cannot continue to borrow very long. But borrowing in itself, when a person is borrowing merely to live, is a depressing experience, and the money lacks the power of earned money to revive their spirits. Of course, none of this applies to bums or habitual ne'er-do-wells, but only to people of normal ambitions and self-respect. Women conceal despair. People in the same predicament must be different. We somehow do not think of people at all in considering the down and outers. They are scarce in the breadlines, they rarely are seen begging on the streets, and they are not recognizable in the crowds by the same plain signs which identify busted people.
It's okay, Jackie. He's actually specifically talking about women here, so don't worry about the
So then go ahead and read
person.
it.
Yeah.
I do not mean the shuffling of hags of the city who are the opposite number of the confirmed male bums. I mean reasonably young, decent, and intelligent women. There must be many of them, but their despair is not apparent. Maybe they kill themselves. When a man is down and out, he has time on his hands for brooding. He may travel miles to see a man about a job and discover that the job is filled and that it is one of those jobs with no base pay but only a commission on the sale of some useless knick-knack which nobody would buy except out of pity. Turning that down, he finds himself back on the street with nowhere to go but just anywhere, so they walk and walk. He gazes into store windows at luxuries which are not for him and feels inferior and gives way to people who stop to look with an active interest. He wanders into the railroad station or puts himself down in the lobby to ease his legs and soak up a little heat, but that isn't looking for a job, so he gets going again. He may not know it, but his aimlessness would give him away even if the very lines of his figure did not. They may be well dressed and clothes left over from the days when he actually had a steady job, but the clothes cannot disguise the droop. Money makes the difference. I'm going to read it as he or she because I think this applies to both men and women. They see thousands of other people, bookkeepers or clerks or chemists or wagon hands, busy at their work and envy them from the bottom of their soul. They have their independence, their self-respect and personhood, and they simply cannot convince themselves that they are a good person, too, though they argue it out and arrive at a favorable verdict hour after hour. It is just money which makes a difference in this person. With a little money, they would be themselves again. Some employers take the most shocking advantage of people who are down and out. The agency hang out little colored cards offering miserable wages to busted people, $12 a week, $15 a week, minimum wage. An $18 a week job is a plum, and anyone with $25 a week to offer does not hang the job in the front of an agency on a colored card. I have a one ad clip from a local paper demanding a clerk, a good, clean penman person, to take telephone orders for a sandwich shop from 11 to 2 p.m. for $8 a month, not $8 a week, but $8 a month. The ad says also, state religion. Can you imagine the brutal effrontery of anyone who demands a good, clean penman for 11 cents an hour inquiring into the victim's religion? But that is what busted people are offered. The fear of criticism. Just how a person originally came by this fear, no one can state definitely, but one thing is certain. They have it in a highly developed form. Some believe that this fear made its appearance about the time that politics became a profession. Others believe it can be traced to the age when women first began to concern themselves with style and wearing apparel. This author, being neither a humorist or a prophet, is inclined to attribute the basic fears of criticism to that part of people's inherited nature which prompts them not only to take away from their fellow person's goods and wares, but to justify their action by criticism of their fellow person's character. It's a well-known fact that a thief will criticize the person from whom they steal, that politicians seek office not by displaying their own virtues and qualifications, but by attempting to besmirch their opponents. The fear of criticism takes on many forms, the majority of which are petty and trivial. Bald-headed men, for example, are bald for no other reason than their fear of criticism. Heads become bald because of the tight-fitting bands of hats which cut off the circulation from the roots of the hair. People wear hats not because they actually need them, but mainly because everyone is doing it. The individual falls in a line and does likewise, lest some other individual criticize them. Women seldom have bald heads or even thin hair because they wear hats that fit their heads loosely, the only purpose of their hats being adornment. But it must not be supposed that women are free from the fear of criticism, and if any woman claims to be superior to man with reference to this fear, ask her to walk down the street wearing a hat of the vintage of 1890. The astute manufacturers of clothing have not been slow to capitalize this basic fear of criticism, with which all humankind has been cursed. Every season, the styles and many articles of wearing apparel change. Who establishes the styles? Certainly not the purchaser of clothing, but the manufacturer. Why do they change the style so often? The answer is obvious. They change the style so they can sell more clothes. For the same reason, the manufacturers of automobiles, with a few rare and very sensible exceptions, change styles and models every season. No person wants to drive an automobile which is not of the latest style, although the older model may actually be a better car. We have been describing the manner in which people behave under the influence of fear of criticism as applied to the small and petty things of life. Let us now examine human behavior when this fear affects people in connection with the more important events of human relationship. Take, for example, practically any person who has reached the age of mental maturity, from 35 to 40 years of age as a general average. And if you could read the secret thoughts of their mind, you would find a very decided disbelief in most of the fables taught by the majority of the dogmatists and theologians a few decades back. Not often, however, will you find a person who has the courage to openly state their belief on this subject. Most people will, if pressed far enough, tell a lie rather than admit they do not believe the stories associated with that form of religion which held people in bondage prior to the age of scientific discovery and education. Why does the average person, even in this day of enlightenment, shy away from denying their beliefs in the fables which were the basis of most of the religions a few decades ago? The answer is because of fear of criticism. Men and women have been burned at the stake for daring to express disbelief in ghosts. It is no wonder we have inherited a consciousness which makes us fear criticism. The time was, and not so far in the past, when criticism carried severe punishments. It still does in some countries. The fear of criticism robs people of their initiative, destroys their power of imagination, limits their individuality, takes away their self-reliance, and does them damage in 100 other ways. Parents often do their children irreparable injury by criticizing them. The mother of one of my boyhood chums used to punish him with a switch almost daily, always completing the job with a statement, "You'll land in the penitentiary before you are 20." He was sent to a reformatory at the age of 17. Criticism is the one form of service of which everyone has too much. Everyone has a stock of it which is handed out gratis, whether called for or not. One's nearest relatives are often the worst offenders. It should be recognized as a crime. In reality, it is a crime of the worst nature for any parent to build inferiority complexes in the mind of a child through unnecessary criticism. Employers who understand human nature get the best there is in the people, not by criticizing, but by constructive suggestion. Parents may accomplish the same results with their children. Criticisms will plant fear in the human heart or resentment, but it will not build love or affection. Symptoms of the fear of criticism. This
There?
here is should I quit
Oh.
there? Should I keep going, or is that good? I don't know what you're saying. You're muted, I think.
You're muted.
Okay, I don't
Sandy.
think I'm muted now. Sorry. I know, it kept like muting me and then unmuting me. I was like, what's going on? This is very strange today. That's fine, Jackie. Let's stop there. Thank you for reading.
What do I need to do? Screen.
There
It
you
will
go.
just do it automatically. So, fear of poverty and criticism. And what else did we read? About how women conceal despair and money talks. Anyone want to share anything that came to mind?
And why men are bald. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I thought
Oh yeah,
that
that's funny. Because their hats are too small.
And my fear of criticism. All my hair just fell out one day.
Yeah.
I was like, I had this big mane like Fabio, and one day somebody said, "I don't like you," and my hair just fell out.
That's so funny. Oh. But he has got a point, I guess, when he's talking about how so many people don't do things they really want to do because they think about what other people will say.
Yeah. You know, the 6 symptoms of poverty. I think I don't think I've met anyone who hasn't experienced every one of those symptoms.
Yes, agreed.
And when there's when you're experiencing all 6 at once, like I think I probably was experiencing that a little bit last week. It's just, oh my God, it's the most miserable thing in the world.
Yeah, you feel like you're down in a hole, right? You know, when you experience a lot of them at the same time.
Yeah.
You do.
And if you can, I guess if you can conquer at least 3 of them, especially number 6, then which is number 6 was expecting poverty.
Yeah.
If you can knock half of them out, you're well on your way. If you can knock all 6 of them out, you're a special person.
Well, something that I'm surprised he hasn't really talked about it so much, I think he did a bit earlier on, and maybe it's coming up, but is gratitude. Because like I was just reading this morning, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, and he has a whole chapter about it, and I like it because he explains it in a very matter-of-fact way. Like sometimes when you hear people talk about gratitude, it's kind of this new agey, oh, you got to be grateful and have a gratitude journal, and he's very he just says, the best way to get out of fear is to just be constantly grateful for everything, because he gives the example of Jesus, like how often Jesus would say in his writings or whatever, thank you Father, and I thank you for this, like all the time. And he just says that the more you do that, it not only does it it brings you closer to source, or God or the universe, because you're always thanking it, so you're always having this ongoing conversation, but it also takes your focus off the things you don't like around you. So I just thought it was a really powerful chapter. If anyone hasn't read that, you might want to check it out, because I think that's
Secret talks about that a lot too.
Yeah, and I have a friend actually. Well, not really a friend, but someone I know. He was in a really bad situation and had sorry, I'm not speaking very well here. Bugs and stuff in his flat, and was living in real poverty and just couldn't seem to break out of it. And then he began writing a list of everything he was grateful for all day long. Like he just kept a notebook with him, and his everything started to change within 2 months. He'd moved out to his own place, like a nice, clean, luscious place. Became a six-figure earner the next year. And that always stays in my mind whenever I find myself getting caught up in that fear of and stress. Okay, what can I be grateful for right now? Ah, it's sunny. Yay, I have water.
Yeah, enjoy the journey, right? Enjoy the journey, right? It isn't always the end point.
Yeah. Yeah, you want exactly. And you also start, and he says it gives you more faith because because you're always focusing on the things that you're happy about. You start expecting more of them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you ladies think about the part about women concealing their despair?
Yeah. Oh,
Does that still hold true?
Jackie, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was just different in those days. I think probably women are expressing themselves a lot more. I do wonder if a lot of it was hidden in those days. That
I think
it
so.
would have to be hidden. But I think women do kind of allow themselves to be seen a lot more now. And I suppose. Yeah, what do I think on that? Did you want to say something?
Well,
no, I disagree. Yeah, I think that's a big factor. But
I mean, when he wrote this, when he started his research, women in the U.S. didn't have the right to vote when he started his research.
Yeah,
that's right. That's correct.
And women working outside the home were kind of an aberration.
That time, yeah.
There were exceptions. But women had their place at that time, what they were expected to do, and but still, I don't know if Sandy would probably know this better than anyone else. I don't know if women have fully equal rights, at least in the developed world. I know in Korea, women, if you're 25 and you're still working, like you get out of college, women get out of college, they go to work, and at 25, their bosses start questioning them. Are you going to have a baby soon? Why aren't you married?
Yeah.
And they'll fire them if they start dating somebody, because it means they're going to get pregnant and quit anyway. So it's a really messed up situation. But now they've got a woman president in Korea, so that's pretty awesome.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Huh.
Yeah, first one. But she's the daughter of a former Korean semi-dictator. So there's good and bad.
Yeah. And sometimes having a woman in power doesn't always actually mean she puts forward woman-friendly policies. But yeah, it's kind of similar in the UK. I know for a fact there that there's a big gap, a huge pay gap between women and men, like 30%. Does exactly the same work, and a big part of it comes from women being fired as well when they get pregnant, and it kind of messes up their whole career because then they're having to constantly start from scratch, and so it's a big factor.
Yeah, same thing in the U.S. There's still a pay differential. There still is.
They say it's 77 cents to the dollar for women, but a pretty famous economist came out and said that number is kind of hard to measure. It's kind of hard to really accurately judge it, so he thinks it may be nowadays closer to like 90 cents to the dollar, which is great, but it's taken way too long.
Yeah. And I'm just looking back at the chapter just to see what we were like. I like the way that he he's basically saying, you know, people ask him why. I bet he got a lot of flack. You know, why are you writing a book about getting rich? And I can even relate to that because sometimes I find myself a bit reluctant to post on Facebook because I can see people judging the words "think and grow rich." You know, like, oh, Sandy just wants to get rich. And
Yeah.
I even had a guy on my YouTube channel. I blocked him in the end. He would put at the end of every video in the comments, "Are you rich yet?" And because I did all these videos about like my attitudes to money, and no matter how much I explained that. You know, what I was actually about, he just didn't care, and so I think he's basically telling us about, you know, how the effects of poverty, and that you can say, oh, you shouldn't have it, money's not the most important thing, but if you're broke, you know, it's all you think about.
Yeah.
This story reminds me, like when I was reading it, it made me think of this time in my life when I was working at Head Start, and during my first year there, like in February,
What's Head
just
Start,
out of
Jackie?
the blue. What?
What's Head Start?
Head Start, it's like a preschool for kids who come from, it's just like to give them a chance if maybe they come from like a tough family, or it's based on money, basically, which is, I don't know. The point is, so I got hired at Head Start, and I was making good money, and everybody treated me there as an equal. And then all of a sudden, Head Start came through and reevaluated their pay scale and decided that my college degree wasn't worth anything, and I got a huge pay cut. And it was instantaneous. Like, even though the pay cut wasn't going to go through till the next school year, the next September, like the very next day, everybody treated me differently. And all of a sudden, I was like the low man on the totem pole. Even though I had the same exact job, the same exact, I was still me. Like, I couldn't believe the difference in the attitude of everybody I worked with, and everybody. It made me see life from a different perspective. And then the next year, I was just treated like a peon, even though I was in the same exact job, doing the same thing, working with the same people. It was just weird how they just knew that I was getting that pay cut, that everybody's attitude changed.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe you were giving off some sort of a vibe that maybe you also felt like, because your cut pay was cut, that maybe you were worth a little less? Inside your head, you were thinking, you were kind of exuding a poverty consciousness, a lack consciousness.
I don't know.
Sorry.
Maybe, but it
I don't mean to
felt like,
psychoanalyze.
I remember being so shocked at the difference in their attitudes, but maybe I don't know. Because like I said, like for the rest of that show was like in February, and all the way through May, I still got my regular paycheck that I've been getting, and it didn't, and it just seemed like it was like instantaneous the next day, like all of a sudden. So I don't know, maybe, but to me, I don't know.
There was something palpable you could feel.
It seemed like all of a sudden, yeah, they didn't respect my opinions, and like all of a sudden, like instead of being treated with the other people, like my idea, like they were like, well, we don't have to listen to you anymore because you're not getting paid as much.
Yeah.
All of a sudden. So I don't know if it was me, because I was still like, come on, let's do this and let's do that, and then they were like, all of a sudden they were like, oh, well, we're not going to do that now because you don't count anymore.
And isn't it interesting that people judge you when you want to, you openly would like to create money, and you're not afraid to say it, and it's that same attitude that keeps most people. It's like this kind of weird trap. Like if you don't have money, you're judged, like you were being judged. But if you then try to go like above the norm, which is like a very sort of just basic getting by level, people judge you for going above that. So I think that basically you just have to like forget what people think. Is what he's saying in this chapter. Like just think, F it.
ignore the criticism. Right, ignore the criticism. And
I don't know if I have any critics when it comes to money. I think maybe they've eliminated themselves, or I've eliminated them. But whenever I talk about money, I had one friend who says, "You talk about money a lot." And I was like, because I like money, and money does a lot of great things for me. And
Yeah.
she got over it, and we're still friends, but I just talk about it less with her. But we both made great money, and that's the funny thing. She made a lot of money, but didn't ever like to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I made the same amount of money, and I thought we were on equal terms, and we could talk about, like, in voice acting, how the structure of things was changing, and how some people were making more and some people were making less. And she's like, "Why does it matter?" And da da da. So, but
Yeah.
but that was the only person. Nobody else seems to care
Oh, that's
in
good.
my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I scared them all away.
Well, it reminds me of that film, The Boiler Room. I don't know if any of you have seen it. It was actually based on the same guy, Jordan Belfort, who, you know, The Wolf of Wall Street, but this is an earlier version
Oh.
on his story. And at one point, the guy, I think it's in the new version as well that Leo DiCaprio did, but he says, like, anyone who tells you money doesn't matter doesn't fucking have any, or something like that. And that made me laugh so much, because that was like my whole social circle for so many years. Money doesn't matter. And I've noticed sometimes with my friends, two of my friends in particular, and I know some of you guys know them, they're like going way beyond normal and just made over $250,000 with what they're doing, and they openly shared that. And it wasn't even when they shared that. Like one day, I think one of them posted, "Oh, we just went food shopping, and it was so nice that we could buy, you know, $400 worth of organic food without even having to worry about it, because we never used to be able to do that." And like a few spiritual kind of people were like, "Oh, money isn't everything. You shouldn't forget like the basic things of life, and don't get carried away." It was so interesting to see people's reactions. Yeah. But they're not afraid of the criticism, and I think that's why they're able to create beyond what a lot of people are able to create. They just kind of go, they're like, "We don't care, we're just going to keep going." So they're a good example of what he's talking about. But we have to wrap up now. I have to go and feed my dog. Anybody else want to share something quickly before we finish?
No.
I'm good.
Cool. Okay. Okay, well, thanks for coming out, everyone.
Yeah, have a great week.
Yeah.
Have a great Monday, everybody.
Bye.
Enjoy your Monday.
See you
See you
tomorrow.
tomorrow or
Bye-bye.
whenever. Bye. Thanks.